Okay, today is March 14, 2023. It is 4:42 p.m. I wanted to read this article. I've shared it in many of my videos, but I wanted to read it, and so I decided to record it just in case some of you might be interested. The link of it will be in the description, and this article is about 2 years old, if not more. Okay, February 2021. Okay, royals vetted more than 1,000 laws via Queen's consent. Exclusive secretive procedures used to review laws ranging from Brexit trade deal to inheritance and land policy. More than 1,000 laws have been vetted by the Queen or Prince Charles through a secret procedure before they were approved by the UK elected members of Parliament, The Guardian has established. The huge number of laws subject to royal vetting over matters ranging from justice, social security, pension, race relations, and food policy to the obscure rules on the car parking charges and hovercraft. They include draft laws that affected the Queen's personal properties such as her private estates in Balmoral and Sandringham, and potentially anything deemed to affect her personally. And I've been saying that. Okay, The Guardian has compiled a database of at least 1,062 parliamentary bills that have been subjected to Queen's consent, stretching from the beginning of Elizabeth II's reign through to the present day. The database illustrates that the opaque procedure of Queen's consent has been exercised far more extensively than was previously believed. Okay, I tried to click on this before I started recording. It will not go into whatever link there is, but the link of this article will be in the description. You guys could try and see if you could get through. Okay, so there's all of this. I'm gonna skip that. Okay, under the procedure, government ministers privately notify the Queen of clauses in draft parliamentary bills and ask for her consent to debate them. As part of a series of investigating the use of the consent procedure, The Guardian has published documents from the National Archives that reveal the Queen has on occasion used the procedures to privately lobby the government. This is where she get the heads up, something is going to be discussed, and then she sent, I guess, her lawyers to see if anything will affect her. If something's gonna affect her pocketbook, she made them member of parliament to change it. That's my humble opinion, but let's continue reading. The investigation uncovered evidence suggesting that she used the procedures to persuade government ministers to, there it is, to change a 1970 transparency law in order to conceal her private wealth from the public. Wow. The document also showed that on other occasions, the monarch's advisors demand exclusion from proposed laws relating to road safety and land policy that appear to affect her estate and press for government policy on historic sites to be altered. I remember at one point I was thinking at some point like her properties will be almost like a different state, like the Vatican or something like that. It will be a country within a country. I don't know. Let me not give ideas. The database of 1,062 laws relates to legislation that the Queen vetted under consent rules, and it is not known on which occasion she also lobbied for change to draft legislation. The Guardian has uncovered evidence of lobbying for change to at least 4 draft laws, but it is possible she interfered with many more. When asked by The Guardian, the Queen's representative refused to say how many times she has requested alteration to legislation since she came to the throne in 1952. I was coughing, my voice sounds weird. The royal described the consent process as, quote, a long-established convention that the Queen is asked by Parliament to provide consent for the debating of bills which will affect the prerogative or interests of the Crown. The database compiled by The Guardian revealed the vast swath of draft UK laws that ministers have decided to send to the palace for consideration. Some of the bills the Queen's reviewed before they were passed by Parliament relate to wealth or taxation, like personal stuff. One of the richest family in Britain, with the monarch's property investment exempt from inheritance tax and collection of fine art and jewelry built up over centuries. The Windsors are notoriously guarded about their finances. Wow. Members of the Windsor family can have their will sealed from the public, unlike any other family in Britain, ensuring an unmatched level of secrecy around their private wealth. No confirmed figure of the Windsor family's wealth exists to estimate have placed it at hundreds of millions of pounds. In 2014, for example, the Queen and the heir to the throne screened the Inheritance and Trustees Powers Bill. 2 years earlier, she vetted the Trust Capital of Income Bill. Trusts are legal arrangements often used by wealthy families to protect their assets from both tax and public scrutiny. She has also screened bills covering whole swath of government policymaking. At least 11 bills governing the railways have been vetted by the Queen, sometimes relating to the land owned by the royal estate. In 2013, the Queen gave her consent to the Parliamentary bill to build the high-speed 2 rail line between London and Birmingham. Transport ministers had notified the palace that the bill affected the interests of the Crown, as the department needed to acquire 21 plots of land owned by the Crown estate during the construction of the line. Okay, at least 10 bills relating to housing policy have been subject to Queen's consent, as have 5 relating to laws on pensions, 7 relating to NHS, and at least 2 concerning animal welfare. The government gave the Queen an exemption in 2016 Act to prevent the mistreatment of animals, stopping inspectors from entering her private estate. Oh my God, like I was just saying at the beginning, that at some point the Crown property is gonna be like the Vatican, a country within a country. Some of the bills subject to Queen's consent are remarkably obscure and ostensibly have little relevancy to the monarchy, raising question about why the Windsors were asked to vet the bills. They include a 1963 bill relating to the British Museum, 1986 bill on salmon, and in 2019 Parking Code of Practice bill to regulate the behavior of private car clamping firms. Okay, Dr. Adam Tucker, a specialist in constitutional law at Liverpool University, said the breadth of laws made to undergo the Queen's consent procedure was startling. Quote, a lot of these bills are not distinctively about the Crown, or mainly about the Crown, or obviously about the Crown in any way, he said, and yet they obviously still have some content which drag them into the process. Seeing the sheer range in this relentless list form really drive home the sheer breadth of things that the procedures capture. In other instances, a connection to the Crown financial interests is plain, such as 1988 bill affecting the Duchy of Lancaster, the private estate that gives the Queen multi-million pound income. Buckingham Palace confirmed that the mechanism encompassed draft laws that affect the Queen's private interests, such as her private estate, as well as anything that affect the Queen's personally, whether as an individual or as a landowner or employer. My God, when you look at this, do they need all of that? Do they need all of that? Meanwhile, some people can even... Let's read. A spokesperson for the Queen said, quote, whether Queen's consent is required is decided by Parliament independently from the royal household. And I mean, how do you differentiate these? This is the thing Harry is trying to do, where the royal family and the firm need to be separated. These people are mangling these things into all one. Okay, if for instance there's the Queen and there's the firm, okay, when it comes to let's say they pick the biggest castle that they have, Okay, when they're doing things for the firm, they're meeting international people, presidents or people from other countries, they use that for the firm, right? And she has a place where she sleeps just in case she needs to be nearby. Okay, and then she has another one for her private estate. Okay, if they differentiate that, maybe, but they don't need a whole bunch of different things. Okay, the one that where she received head of states from different countries, this should be under the crown. Anything else that she used privately, this should be personal. This is the thing, the people in the UK need to differentiate this stuff, and this is the thing Harry is trying to differentiate, and this is why they're giving Harry a hard time, I think. Quote, whether the Queen's consent is required is decided by Parliament independently from the royal household, and matters that will affect crown interests, including personal property and personal interests of the monarch. If consent is required, draft legislation is, by convention, put to the sovereign to grant solely on advice of ministers and as a matter of public record. Okay, she added, quote, Queen's consent is a parliamentary process with the role of sovereign purely formal. Consent is always granted by the monarch where requested by government. Any assertion that the sovereign has blocked legislation is simply incorrect. But I don't know, are any of those member of parliament ever say, why will they change this because it benefit the Queen personally? I mean, they need to, I don't know, in my views, they need to be a line where there's the private, which is family, and then the firm. That's where parliamentary could use that to protect this particular household of the estate or something like that. And this is the thing Harry's trying to differentiate with these people. Okay, the Cabinet Office said, quote, Queen consent, or did I read that? She added, Queen consent is a parliamentary process with the role of the sovereign purely formal. Consent is always granted by the monarch where requested by government. Any assertion that the sovereign has blocked legislation is simply incorrect. I have a feeling they probably block certain things when they cannot get certain something to benefit them. So I doubt this part here. The Cabinet Office said, quote, Queen consent is a long-standing convention and a requirement of the parliamentary process. Consent is routinely sought by the government and agreed by the monarch as a matter of course. This I think I could understand. Okay, there's a procedure that they follow and they need to ask the Queen for consent. And I think, in my humble opinion, the firm took advantage of this particular consent. So once something is happening where they do things privately, they try to benefit from it. Instead, they mangle everything and say it's for the crown. This is where they take advantage of it. Okay, a little bit question rule. Many of the laws appear to relate to matter of the royal prerogative, the power of state that are formally vested in the monarch but are exercised by the government. The fact that the consent procedure takes place is briefly noted in the parliamentary record. In the Commons, a minister nods when asked by the Speaker, while in the Lords, a minister will read a rote passage of text. Politicians frequently question the procedure. One of the rare occasions was in 2015 when the Labour peer Lord Berkeley asked why the Queen's consent was required for the Enterprise Bill after the rote passage had been read out. Lord Taylor, the then government chief whip and the Lord, replied that it was a quote, a courtesy which Her Majesty extends to the House before we consider the third reading of a bill. It is not normal to discuss in detail what the interests are. This is where the thing goes into kind of thing. All right, so this is where it's asking to donate. Okay, so I wanted to read this to share with you because I've mentioned it many times in some of my videos. The link of it will be in the description. Feel free to go and check these because right now these links are not working right now. So that's it. No prayers, no nothing. I just wanted to read this while I was reading it, and I decided to share with you because I've always mentioned it on some of my videos. Okay, so that's it.